about B2R Financial in my slideshow today. So we've got some exciting webinars coming up on September the 5th and September the 7th. We're going to be having Brian Davis with Accuplan. If you're interested in how you might use your investment dollars to invest in real estate using your 401k or self-directed IRA, Brian is a world of information, always has a lot of great information, and it's free, by the way, so you can tune into that and listen to Brian talk about ways you might structure your retirement portfolio or just your real estate investment portfolio. So be with us for that. That's September 5th and September 7th. Okay. All right, so this is from Trulia just about a month and a half ago, and yeah, you know what, believe it or not, there are markets right now where we're on bubble watch. I happen to be sitting in one. I'll talk about that in a second. But it's very interesting. The market has rebounded. We all know that. We've talked about that in these webinars all year long. The market was rebounding. We try to strategically place ourselves in markets that still has plenty of room for growth, and we'll talk about that as well. But interesting that there are some markets now where we're on bubble watch, and I've mentioned one, so I might as well. And I apologize, something is wrong with my slideshow here. Here we go. Oops. Okay, so the top 10 metro markets that are most overvalued. Now, most of you know that have been on these webinars. I live in Orange County, California, so I am right in the where you would consider to be the most overpriced real estate in the nation. Now, what's interesting about this report from Trulia is that if you look at the cities that are on here, 8 of the 10 most overvalued markets in the United States are right here in California. I mean, if you live in California, you know the geography. Orange County, LA, Riverside, San Bernardino, San Jose, Oakland, Ventura, San Diego, that's the whole state, right? I mean, except for maybe Fresno or Modesto, right? San Joaquin Valley. The whole people have asked me over the years, why don't you invest in California? Well, that was why. We always said, you know what? The hedge fund guys don't buy in California. We don't recommend you buy investment real estate in California. Because if there's a state that's on bubble watch, it's California. And if there's one market in particular that's on bubble watch, it's where I live, which is in Orange County, California. Great place to live. I got a wife. I got 5 kids. 3 of them are mine. 2 are live-ins. It's a great place to raise kids. Great place for kids to go to school. Wouldn't want to live anyplace else. But in terms of investment real estate, this is not the place you want to invest. Now, conversely, where would the hedge fund guys, the institutional buyers, the larger buyers, the real estate investment trust, where would they be investing? In markets like this. These are markets that are most undervalued. Now, you'll notice that a number of these, for those of you that know us, you know that a number of these markets we're in. We're in Cleveland, we're in Detroit, we're in Memphis, Tennessee, we're in Toledo, Ohio, we're in some of these markets. And we're also in Birmingham, and today we're going to announce the opening of the Jackson, Mississippi market. But why would you invest in those markets? The answer is really simple, guys. It's just the fact that these markets are still undervalued, which means there's appreciation to be earned in these markets. And that's where the larger buyers tend to gravitate to, is markets where there's lots of room for growth, because they see this as an investment. They're not going to live in these houses. They're going to invest in these properties with the purpose of one day selling them, earning a great cash flow until which time they get to a point where they sell that real estate off. And, you know, people ask me all the time, you know, is it too late? And I'm going to profile an article here in Entrepreneur Magazine in a second, but, you know, is it too late to get in? You know, did I miss the 2008, 9, 10, 11 opportunity to buy real estate? And I've said to them consistently, I don't think so. As a matter of fact, this year, when I went into this year, my first webinars, for those of you that were on those, in January and February, all I talked about for 2 months was where the market was in 2013 and where all the indicators pointed to where it was going in 2014. And one of the things I talked about was, man, everything I'm seeing tells me that this is going to be the best time to buy, right? I mean, Forbes magazine wrote an article in February. It said that 1/3 of all millionaires were going to buy real estate in 2014, that the #1 alternative investment pick was real estate. Prudential Real Estate had a consumer survey, and it said that people were more confident in buying investment real estate in 2014 than they were in 2013. And Credit.com reported in 2013 that of all the homes sold in the United States in 2013, 45%, almost, was 44.9%, homes were sold with no loan recorded at the time of the sale, which means it was a cash sale. What does that mean? It means investors were buying real estate like crazy. Now, there's a lot of other reasons why I think 2014 is the best time to buy, and you're going to see this as we go through the slideshow. And I see some veterans of our webinars that have been on for a while, and what you're going to see is you're going to see some prices like you haven't seen in a little while. We'll talk about that as we go through the slideshow. Okay, so skip a little bit too fast there. So I saw this article about a month ago. It's the July 30th edition of Entrepreneur Magazine, and what stuck out to me was, I know who Brenton Hayden is, the founder of Renter's Warehouse, but 5 reasons real estate is once again a prudent investment. And what stuck out to me about the article was, when I first saw it, was, well, real estate is once again a prudent I thought it had always been a pretty good real estate investment. I mean, most people that have a large investment portfolio guarantee it. They've got some part of that that's real estate, right? But it was interesting, and so I read the article. I'm going to paraphrase the next 5 slides, but I'll try to expand upon it a little bit. But I thought it was interesting, and certainly we're sharing with you why Brent and Hayden said, no, this is the best reason, this is the best time, rather, to be investing in real estate. Number one, don't miss the lucrative bottom bounce. A lot of people think that the bottom bounce was 2008 and 9. Yeah, prices did bottom out back in 2008 and 9. But what he's saying here is true, is that the market lows were really in 2012 and 2013. The bottom bounce is really sort of right now. And we can expect to have a 3 or 5 years of strong appreciation for, you know, a matter of fact, I mentioned Memphis, Tennessee is a market that we're currently in. We have some good inventory down there. Memphis is considered to be the #1 appreciating market in the United States over the next 5 years. So what he's saying here is you can get great prices. Don't miss that bottom bounce. And then he just goes on to say, you know, it's an ideal time to invest in a rental portfolio or rental property, both from a personal and a smart business investment perspective. And that's so true. Whether it's an institutional buyer, a hedge fund looking to buy 20 or 30 houses every week, or whether it be an individual looking to buy one house for their retirement portfolio, it's a sound strategy if you have the right market and the right partners, and we'll talk about that. Number 2, property hasn't been this affordable in decades. Absolutely right. And I'll tell you, I'm going to show a couple of slides. And again, for those of you that have been around a little while, you're going to see some prices that you haven't seen in a little while. So it's not, again, people think that, well, I missed the boat. No, you didn't miss the boat at all. I think this is the best time to buy, and I'll kind of outline why. This talks about mortgage rates being at a markedly low 3%. Yeah, that's true. That is true. I'm not sure that has a lot to do with, well, it's got something to do with the rebounding housing market, that's for sure, because people can buy homes easier now because the interest rates are so low, and that part is true. But from an investment real estate perspective, I don't know that interest rates really have a big effect. Now, I'm going to talk about non-recourse lending here in a few minutes, but I think as far as the bank interest rates being low, I'm not sure that has a lot to do with housing. I mean, if 45% of people in America bought houses last year with cash, that just basically tells you that investors are buying real estate. However, it is true, if you want to take some equity out of your home, interest rates are incredibly low. That certainly does drive the market conditions. I don't know why my PowerPoint is doing this today, but we're going to go back one. Next one is rental prices are soaring. That's absolutely true. And there's a sad narrative to this. And, you know, the sad narrative is simply this, is that over the last 5 years, many Americans, they've lost their homes. There's been lots of foreclosures. That's a true statement. There's lots of folks that lost their jobs. And while we do live in a market that the housing market is recovering, and we do live in a country where people are gaining employment again, in many cases, folks are underemployed. They're not making what they were in 2006, 7, or 8. And so therefore, unfortunately to say, but it's true, and that is that buying a home for many Americans is a distant dream. There's a new generation of renters because of what occurred in 2007 and 8. And so for that reason, you have a tremendous rental market. Jonathan Gray, who's the president of Blackstone, who's the largest owner of single-family homes in America, was recently quoted as saying their occupancy rate is 94%. That's incredible, especially for a company that bought bulk lists and tapes and probably have a decent part of their portfolio that is not performing because it's not rehabbed yet and performing for them. So 94% occupancy rate is pretty amazing. And this goes on to say that, you know, the spike in demand is highly beneficial for property investors who will see their investment appreciate as well as earning steady monthly incomes. Interesting. All the hedge funds prefer now to have short lease terms, not long ones. You'd think it'd be the opposite, right? They're buying a portfolio of 10 homes. They want to make sure they've got 18-month leases or 24-month leases. No, it's the opposite. Why? Because they can raise the rent. So what does it mean for you? It means that if you're a renter, if you're not a renter, if you're a landlord, if you're a renter, you're going to get your rent raised, what it means if you're a renter. But if you're a landlord, what it means is that you can raise the rent, which means your yield goes up. Your ROI will go up as opposed to being an investment that can potentially go down. All signs in the real estate market point to rental prices continuing to climb. Yep, capital is increasingly accessible, and I've said this, you know, the #1 question I've been asked in these webinars the last 4 years is, do you have financing available? And the #1 response is, no, there's no financing available. And so that's changed. And it was one of the things we talked about in the radio show just recently was that, you know, with Joe Caschera, who's the host of Real Estate 360, who's on my segment today, you know, we were talking about this, that, you know, it's interesting. All of a sudden in the last 8-10 months, there's different people out there. Now, there's some non-recourse lenders I'm going to talk about here in a minute that are willing to loan money on certain properties. Then there's also Blackstone. I mentioned Blackstone, largest owner of single-family homes, 48,000 homes in 13 markets across the United States. They've got a division called B2R Finance. I mentioned them. They'll be one of our guests on our radio show coming up. And B2R Financing is offering financing to the smaller investor, you know, the guy that's got 3 rental properties. They'll loan against the value of those properties and give him the capital to go out and buy more inventory, and then buy more inventory and more inventory. So the guy that's got 3, help him get to 10. The guy that's got 10, help him get to 30. They're going to finance people to assist them in growing their rental portfolio. So there is financing now available. And then finally, you can be a stress-free landlord. You know, this is so true. You know, the number one concern people will have with buying out-of-state real estate is that, you know, it's not in their backyard. They can't see it. They can't touch it. They can't feel it. They can't go over there, knock on the tenant's door if he doesn't pay his rent, all that sort of stuff, right? But the reality of technology has not just made the world smaller through the beauty of the internet, but it's also made these property management companies much more effective, because it doesn't matter whether you live next door or whether you live 2,000 miles away, because the property management company, through technology, will allow it to be a small community. In other words, you will be able to go online, see how your property is performing, have your monthly rent income be directly deposited into your bank account or into your 401k or wherever it's directed to. So what Reagan says here is, he just basically says, look, welcome to 2014. A landlord doesn't have to be a headache anymore. Technology-based solutions and the rise of service-oriented business and do the bulk of the work, takes fraction of the time and energy for you, away from you. So you don't have that bulk of doing all this stuff anymore. I mean, the reality of it is, there has been a new industry spawned by the crash of the real estate market, right? And that one of those industries has been property management. And those property managers have to be competitive. If they don't do a good job in a market, they won't have your business for very long. So those businesses have become extremely sophisticated, and finding a good property manager is no longer difficult to do. 7 tips. Now, I give 7 tips on what you should consider to be your strategy as you invest in investment real estate. Now, being totally transparent here, this is the same sort of stuff that a hedge fund guy would be looking at, right? I mean, this is the same sort of things that an institutional buyer would deploy in terms of their strategy. But then the first 3 go hand in hand. You always want to buy below market value. You want to buy direct from the selling party, and I'll explain what that means in a few slides. And do not buy anything that's not off market. In other words, if it's on the MLS, don't buy it. If you're not buying it directly from the seller, you're not going to get the best deal. And make sure you're buying it below market value. Now, there's some ways to do all those things, and I'll talk about that in a few slides. Number 4, look for both year-on-year appreciation and ROI. Don't just look for one or the other. Now, let me give you some examples on that. If you were to buy in Phoenix today, you'd probably get about a 5 or 6% return on your money in a market that's probably not going to not only not appreciate, it's probably going to go down. I mean, Phoenix is a bubble. Atlanta is a market that you can get really good appreciation in some pockets, 10, 12% annual appreciation, but your rates of return are going to be low, 5, 6, 7%. I mean, an $800 rental in Atlanta will cost you $70 grand. I'm going to profile one. An $800 rental in Birmingham, you can buy for less than 50 grand. So your ROI is much higher in other markets. Now, some markets, like the ones we try to focus in, are markets where you get both. Now, why do we do that? Why do we focus on those markets? Do we do it for our people like you? Absolutely. But we also do it because we know the large hedge funds buyers are in those markets, which means there's lots of inventory to be moved in those markets. So look for both year-on-year appreciation and ROI. Have your infrastructure in place. Property management is key. I've mentioned that a couple times. I'll probably mention it a couple more times before we're done, but property management is key. And by the way, we won't refer a property out or a group out, a wholesale out, unless that property manager is already in place. Understand your strategy, short and long term. Are you in it for long term, short term? Are you in it for a flip? I don't recommend flips. We can talk about that if you want. I'm not a fan of the flips for a whole bunch of reasons we can discuss. And then only buy fully rehabbed and rent-ready properties. Now, if you buy something that's fully rehabbed and not yet rented, that's probably okay. But don't buy anything that isn't rehabbed. One of the horror stories that we learned in 2014 was folks buying from groups before the property was done being rehabbed, and that almost always had an unhappy ending. So you just don't want to do that. I just don't recommend you do it. Matter of fact, I won't refer you to somebody unless it's done. If I refer you to somebody and you call me and say, Charlie, they suggest I buy this I tell you don't do it. You just don't do it. You just don't. When they're done, then do it. But until the property's completely finished, don't buy it. I've been talking about buying direct, and I don't know that everyone knows what that is. And so I want to paint a picture of what that looks like. So a wholesaler is someone that's in a market that understands the market. He's lived there for a while. He understands the streets. He knows where the owner-occupant neighborhoods are versus the tenant-occupied neighborhoods are. And yes, that matters, because when you go to sell your property, if 80% of the neighborhood is renters, you have a less ability to sell it at a good price. If you're in a neighborhood where the bulk of the folks are homeowners, you got a better chance of selling at a better price. That does matter. But he understands the schools, the crime rates, the roads. He knows what the property is worth now. He knows what it was worth in 2008. He knows what it's going to cost him to fix it up. He knows what he's going to be able to rent it for, what he's going to be able to sell it for, and it's direct to an individual. Now, this individual, this wholesaler guy that I'm describing, he probably doesn't look like this guy in the suit, right? He probably isn't wearing a tie and shiny shoes. He's probably looking more like a construction worker, right? Because he's in the street finding these properties at the courthouse steps, out of bankruptcy or out of foreclosure. He's actively working in that market to find property to fix up and to flip. He's an expert at it. Okay, that's the guy you want to deal with. Now, understand something. Hedge funds will only buy from those guys direct, right? When I work with a hedge fund, and I had a call yesterday with a hedge fund, the first thing they say to me is, "Are you direct? Don't bring me anybody that he isn't the owner of the house." If he's not the owner of the house, we don't want to talk to him. We don't want to talk to him. Now, why? They don't want to talk to him because they know that house is going to get marked up 5 times, and they're going to pay a heavier price. So you want to buy it direct. If I refer you to somebody, the properties that I'm going to profile, you're going to buy them direct from those entities, not from me or through me. You're going to buy them from them. That doesn't mean I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to consult with you, but I'm going to bring you directly to the selling party, just like I would with a hedge fund. Now, we at Income Property Headquarters, what we've done is we've created a wholesalers marketplace is what we've done. Now, this website's partially under construction, so if you go there, not everything is up there. And then there's also the little issue of sometimes we get inventory that moves quick, so it never ends up there. But contact us. These are the markets that we're currently in. We've just added Jackson, Mississippi to it. We'll be adding some Jackson, Mississippi to the website. Birmingham, we've been in for a while. We're still having a great run in Birmingham. It's a great market. I still think one of the better markets in the country, frankly, when you compare the appreciation with the rental amounts you can get there and what you can buy properties for there. I still think Birmingham's one of the best markets. Atlanta, because people just want to be in Atlanta, including the hedge funds. Memphis, obviously, as I mentioned, one of the top appreciating markets in the country. Toledo, one of the best wholesalers. I deal with Angelo Remora with Ohio Cash Flow. Does a tremendous job down there. Kansas City, Missouri. Today, we're going to talk about Jackson, Mississippi. So just a couple slides, we'll get to that. So I've been doing this slide for a while now. I'm probably going to take it out. I think most people get it now. It was a number of years ago when we had to explain why. You're in California. Why don't you partner up with your neighbor and do some? It just never made financial sense, and none of the hedge fund guys would buy this stuff. I mean, $600,000 in San Jose gets you a house. That same $600,000 in Birmingham gets you 10 of them, 10 houses. In San Jose, $600,000 gets you $2,500 a month ROI. In Birmingham, $600,000 will get you $9,600 a month in ROI. If your tenant moves out in San Jose, you have no income. If you have 5 tenants move out in Birmingham, you've still got five sets of rent coming in. You diversified your portfolio. You've made a smarter investment. This is why the hedge funds are in these smaller markets. They're not there because they want to live there. They're there because they can get the best yield in their investment. They don't look at it like a home they're buying to live in. They look at it like a stock they're buying from the stock market, right? They don't care where the company's located. They care that the company's going to provide them with a yield. In San Jose, 3.2%, Birmingham, 15.5%. So we're moving into Jackson, Mississippi. And to be totally transparent, one of the reasons we're moving into Jackson is because I know that from 2 different funds that they will be in Jackson by early October to first part of next year, middle of winter, January, February. They'll be in that market. Now, for me, moving into that market was simple. I knew why they were moving into that market. There's lots of strong economic indicators. This came out of Bloomberg. I just pulled off the 40 strongest U.S. metro economies. Jackson, Mississippi is rated number 11. There's a Nissan plant just getting ready to move into Jackson. There's the rental market there is extremely strong. The inventory is excellent. But for me, the other thing that was important to me about Jackson was that I had a sister company that worked in Birmingham that also operates out of Jackson. So I'm going to introduce you to them now. This is Southern Equity LLC. Principal owner is Bradley Miller. His partner is Justin Harrison, who owns Premier Equity Group in Birmingham, Alabama. The non-recourse lender I mentioned will only loan in certain markets to certain groups on certain houses. And he's approved these guys, and there's a reason for that. As a lender, he needs to know he's going to lend on a property that's worth more than it's being sold for. He has to know that you're going to win. That house is going to go under a full appraisal. And for those of you on this call, and I see some people here that would know this, you know that if you sell a house at $49,900 to somebody and it goes through a full appraisal, and an appraisal at $55,000 is probably worth 60 or 65, right? Whoever knows the appraisal business. This lender needs to know that the property that you're buying is going to be under market value. That's a great thing for you, by the way, that you're buying it under market value. So they've been in business for 14 years. They've sold 1,200 homes. They've got 300 properties that they own right now that are in their own portfolio. Their current volume is 5 to 10 a month. We're going to be ramping that up in the coming months, not just to satisfy our own inventory needs, but also for the hedge funds that will be coming into that market. Their non-recourse lending terms are the same in both Jackson as well as in Birmingham. This is new now. For those of you that have not been on our webinars in the last several years, you know that every time I've been asked about financing, I've said, nope, don't have anybody, not going to recommend anybody, not now. These guys are quality lenders. They're based up in Portland. I've talked to the people that they've loaned to under these terms. Let me give you what the terms are first, and I'll profile some properties. The terms are simple. It's 50% down. You pay a 5% loan origination. And you know, by the way, if you're paying a 5% loan initiation fee, origination fee rather, that is inexpensive. That is extremely conservative, extremely competitive number. It's a 9% interest-only loan for 5 years. I'm going to stop there for a second and let you digest that. 9% interest-only, 5 years. The question that you're going to have is, well, what do I do at the end of 5 years? I'm going to owe a balloon payment on that house. You're right, you are, but I'm going to explain how that works in a minute. It must be set up in an LLC or an IRA to be sold, and that's a good thing, by the way, for tax reasons for you. If you don't have your properties in an LLC or IRA anyway, you should consider doing that. To qualify, you got to have a name, an address, a phone number, an email address. That's it. This is a non-recourse loan. It is an asset-based loan. It's based on the house, not your creditworthiness, your FICO score, or your income level. It's because of the property. The property is what triggers the loan. It's not your creditworthiness or anything else. There's really no qualifying. I actually do the loan stuff myself. I did one last week for somebody. It's a simple application you do online. It's silly stupid. So there's really no qualifying to do this. So all these properties I'm going to show can be financed. I'm going to do some that are just cash prices, and I'm going to do some that are if you put 50% down. So for example, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1958,000 square feet, rents for $725, taxes, insurance, your ROI is 15%. This is the reason why hedge funds are going into these markets, folks. $44,900 for a $725 rental now for all. So, and I see at least 3 or 4 of you that I know on this call. You guys know that over the last 3 or 4 years, when we would talk and do these webinars, we would say, hey, $49,900 gets you a $700 rental, or a $650 rental, or $44,900. You see a $44,900 property that's been completely rehabbed like this, it's brand new inside, that's got a $725 tenant for $44,000, I mean, you're kidding me. That's a 15% cap rate. Now, let me tell you something. These wholesalers 2 years ago would have sold this to a specialized REO group. They would have advertised this property and sold it to you for $55,000, and you'd have bought it, and guess what? You still would have been getting a great deal. You would have. You'd be getting about a 11, 12% cap. There's nothing wrong with that. But the reason I've said all through this webinar is this is the best time to buy. This is the reason why it's the best time to buy. You can get same access to the same kind of properties that the hedge funds get. Same stuff. The same type of inventory that they're buying, you can buy directly from the wholesaler. Okay, Beanville, Jackson, Mississippi, again, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet, built 1964. Check this out. Newly rehabbed. It's going to have a brand new roof, new stove, new water heater, new AC unit. It's renting for $800 a month. After taxes, insurance, your ROI is 12.2%, selling at $54,900. I have a question in the queue. I'm going to answer it, but I'm going to take all the questions at the end of the webinar. Okay, so I'm going to answer this question because I saw it here a minute ago. By the way, if you look to the bottom here, to the right of your screen, you got a dashboard there. In that dashboard is a place where you can type in questions. If you want to type them in there, I'll answer them at the end of the webinar. I'm going to answer this question because it's relating to this slide, sort of. Yeah, they'll take offers. If you want to make an offer on a property, you can make an offer. Just call me and let me know which property you're interested in, and we can make offers. This is a very nice piece of property, obviously. And again, look at the work, the craftsmanship. You're not buying a home that's going to get done, might get done. This is a brand new rehab. One of the things I like about Southern Equity is they do great work. I've seen this is just a portion of their photo gallery. I have the whole photo gallery in a Dropbox account. If you're interested in these properties, obviously I can send them out to you and take a look at them. Now, This one here, I'm going to profile just for an illustration of what financing on something like this would look like. The rent's $750, the taxes, the insurance, the asking price is $50,000, the ROI is 13.35. You're going to put 50% down. You're going to pay $1,100 in points. So your interest monthly interest payment is going to be $187. That's going to leave you with a net cash flow of $367. So you're going to have $367 in net cash flow each month against about a almost a $24,000 down payment. So $24,000 down, $367 out in your pocket every month. That comes out to a 15.5% ROI. Now again, I know the question. What do I do at the end of 5 years and the balloon payments due? And I'm going to show you how that works in just a few slides. Again, I'm just showing you these pictures to give you guys an idea. This is high quality stuff. These properties have all been completely renovated inside and out. Okay, I'm going to shift gears now and go over to Birmingham and do the same model with financing, and then what you do at 5 years. Because I know everybody's got that question. I'm going to have a balloon payment at 5 years. So, 1865 St. Charles Court, renting for $769. Taxes and insurance, the asking price is $49.9. Your ROI is 14.6%. Now you're going to put 50% down. You're going to pay the 5% of points, so you're going to pay $1,247 in points. You're invested about $26,000 in change. Your interest payment monthly is $187. Your net cash flow is $401. So you got a little more cash flow because the taxes are a little bit less in Birmingham than they were in Jackson. So your net ROI is almost 20%. So you're putting down $26,000. You're getting a 20% return on your money on the money that you're putting down. Now, what do you do in 5 years? Now, everybody I talked to had the same strategy except for one woman. I'll talk about her in a second. But you sell it. Everyone's strategy is, well, I'll just sell it. So you know, because it's being appraised, we talked about that it's going to be worth more than what you buy it for. So let's say you buy it for $49.9. It's probably worth $55 now. But let's just say conservatively, it goes up 5% per year for 5 years, just 5%. So every year the property goes up 5% in value. That's a very conservative number. So you sell it in 2019 at $63,000. You probably could sell it for closer to $70,000, but I'm trying to be really conservative here. You got to pay the $24,000 loan about, so the guy gets his entry, gets his $25,000 back. The lender does. You got a balance of $38,000. You've invested $24,950, so you get all your money back. You made a profit of $13,000 in appreciation. So you made appreciation. You made money. You made $13,000 in appreciation over 5 years. Plus, you had that rental income. You had $400 in rental income for 5 years at $24,000. So you got a $37,000 profit there on a $26,000 investment. That's not a bad investment over a 5-year period of time. And you got the safety of being involved with a lender who knows that he sold you that property, or he's a partner with you in that property on a project that's worth more than what you bought it for to begin with. Now, there was one other gal that I spoke to, and what her strategy was to take out a loan. At the end of 5 years, she was going to take out a loan, probably take it off or take a second on her house, pay it off, pocket that $187 a month. She'll have a good $600 in cash flow in her pocket every month, and she'll just keep on cash flowing. And again, it's important to point out the quality of work. In Birmingham, it's Southern Equity LLC. In Jackson, it's Southern LLC. In Birmingham, it's Premier Equity Group, Justin Harrison, Bradley Miller, partners in both markets, really. These guys have done a ton of homes and can provide a ton of references too. Okay, now I advertised this yesterday, so I'm going to profile this one. I have had one phone call on this, and I also had an email sent to me after the last webinar. So if you're interested, if you're looking to buy something at the moment, you might want to give this one a good strong look. It's pretty rare that I get properties that shoot these kind of numbers out at you. So I'm just going to, okay, 4-bedroom, 1-bath. It's renting at $800. That's a 13.8% ROI after taxes and insurance. The asking price is $45,700. If you go to Zillow, Zillow says it's worth $75,000. You'll notice that the seller, who's 3D Properties, is offering on Zillow for $50,000. Made a deal with the owner. We're profiling at $45,700. I'm probably going to blast that out a few more nights. I have the whole photo gallery in this property. It is completely remodeled inside and out. It's got an $800 Section 8 tenant in it. It's got a brand new lease. It's newly rehabbed. It's an excellent price with a great cap rate and way under market value. If this house is even worth $60,000, you're buying it way under market value. So lots of equity built into that as you walk in the front door. The property management team is already in place. His name is Jay Benoit with Decus Group. we're using Jay now with most every property that we manage down in Birmingham. We feel that they're the best in that market. They manage for most of the hedge fund buyers down there too. We feel that they're the best in that market. So that's who the property manager is. So with that, I think that's my last slide. And I did that fast, and I intentionally did that fast because I was late for this call today. So I want to appreciate everybody getting back on the webinar today. There is a couple questions here, and I'm going to take those real quick. And if you have questions, please go ahead and type them into the queue here. And if you don't want to ask a question, I'm going to leave my information up here for a little bit. And you can give me a call. I always leave the day open after I do these webinars to take calls. If you get my voicemail, I will call you back same business day. Okay, there's two questions in here. The first question is, actually the first question isn't a question. It's a statement about buying notes. I don't do anything with notes. I'll certainly contact you. You can let me know what you're doing, and maybe I can point you to some folks. But I strictly work through the educational webinars with regards to investment property, with investment income, real estate. But I don't do a lot of notes. I don't really know much about the market. But I thank you for the offer, and I will give you a call. Yes, the webinar was recorded. So if you'd like to have a copy of this webinar, please raise your hand, and I will be happy to get you a copy of the webinar. There is one more question in here. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, what is the cost to set up an LLC or 401k, and what is the purpose? Okay, there's a number of, let me do costs first. The costs, I think, we've only done one of these so far, and I think the gentleman paid $500 to a lawyer to set it up, and you can probably do that yourself for a lot less. But I think he paid a lawyer to set himself up in Birmingham with an LLC. By the way, that's a great strategy. With an IRA, I believe it's about $250, I think. If anybody knows the answer to that question, I know somebody that's on this call will probably know the answer to that question. I think it's $250 to set up a 401k or self-directed IRA. Then you have to fund it, of course. The purpose of it, I think there's multiple purposes, but I got to tell you something. If you're going to buy investment real estate, you really want to talk to your investment advisor, whether it be an accountant or a tax preparer, because there are benefits to owning investment real estate. And unfortunately, I'm not qualified to speak to what they are. I'm not a tax preparer or an accountant, and so I would be remiss in telling you that, here's your tax benefits. I can't do that, but I do know this. I do know what they are because I've been on calls when I've heard them talk about, what those benefits, tax benefits are. And I would just tell you, if you're going to invest in real estate, I really would strongly encourage you to contact your tax professional and ask about the benefits of owning real estate from a tax perspective. And I think that 401ks and LLCs provide some safety there. I also think from the lender's standpoint, there's some legal reasons why he'd like to see that property held in an entity that has some legal protection. How's that? So, yeah, I believe that's the reason why. And I don't see any other questions in here. I don't see any other questions. That's all I've got. I got one more, which is just a comment. You're very welcome, I guess. I thank you for registering back on and getting back on the webinar. Appreciate that very much. Hope to talk to you soon. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, so I did that pretty quick. I did that in 40 minutes. So I appreciate everybody being on today. If you're interested in any of these properties or you just want to talk about investing in real estate in general, I don't charge you to have those conversations. You're more than welcome to give me a shout. You got my numbers up on the screen. I thank everyone for being on today, and look forward to talking to you real soon.